Welcome to First Minister's Questions review show. This week we are experimenting with a little technical device because Alex Grant is in Englandshire. Welcome, Alex.
Thank you.
Today we have the regular crew: Norrie Stewart, Phil Attridge, Alex Grant and myself, Stuart Lockhead. Let me start. We'll start with Alex, and he's far away. What did you think generally about today's FMQs?
Well, I have to say my opening gambit has to be the presiding officer. Can he speak? She wants to be shot. I mean, it's an embarrassment when she introduces a couple of foreign dignitaries and has to, muddle up her words the way I'm doing now. I mean, it was gobsmacking. Anyway, apart from that embarrassment, I thought the Deputy First Minister was a star. She slotted into the groove as though she did it every week. She was first class. Very difficult subject to deal with, and I'm sure we'll elaborate on that in a bit more detail as we go along. But I thought she fielded all the questions really well, and she even dealt appropriately with Willie Rennie. Thank God.
Wee Willie. Phil?
I thought Nicola Sturgeon did very, very well today. Like Alex said, she did slot in perfectly. She made mincemeat of Joanne, who, I don't know how many times she answered a question at Joanne, who just went straight back from the script and basically answered the same question, not taking any note of the answer. Bearing in mind that Joanne Lamont was a teacher, actually it sounded like she was a pupil with learning difficulties, and that Joanne was her teacher. Ruth Davis, actually I forgot what she was on about, but then that's nothing unusual.
Grants,
and all that.
BAE.
Yeah, well, it's actually really not worth talking about with Ruth Davis. Yeah, Willie Rennie, and again I posed the question, what is Willie Rennie for? I thought she did very well.
I thought he did very badly at defending Rosyth, given how the focus was entirely... It started off, Rosyth got a mention, but as soon as that debate going between Nicola and Joanne, it was all the Clyde. Rosyth and Rosyth's jobs were ignored.
Well,
nobody commented on that at all.
But with Joanne, it was like war, warships, war, which has basically been, I suppose, New Labour and the Tories' mantra anyway for years, is all about warships. Totally ignoring the answer that came about diversification, and I'd like to know, when it comes to diversification, which Joanne was putting back, what did the New Labour government do over 13 years with diversification? Nothing. Did, apart from give warships?
Norrie?
What's kind of impressed me is I thought the SNP would struggle to find the line, but they have, and the line is diversification. We will speak to anybody about saving the jobs on the Clyde. They've actually been given an open goal. Ian Davidson, being a local MP there and a total breast of a man, has allowed them to say to him, well, it doesn't matter whether it's a United UK, a separate Scotland, whatever it is, you have to support your constituents. So are you going to support your constituents to keep the T26 contracts in an independent Scotland? So they've actually managed to, out of what could have been a very difficult period, they've managed to wrong foot the opposition. Again.
I have to agree with you there. It was quite clearly, carefully thought out, the approach that the Deputy First Minister put. And she stuck to her line, but of course the advantage she has over Joanne Lamont is she doesn't need a speech. She can think on her feet.
She was actually, she wasn't reading from the script, but she was doing a lot of reading, you can see, but she can do it properly. She scans, talks, rather than...
They found the way out of what could have been a mess with that approach, as far as I'm concerned.
Alex, what did you think about Joanne Lamont's performance?
Yeah, I agree with Phil's opening gambit. In one respect, I thought she dealt with it in the only way she could deal with it. But she could only read from her script as usual, and when Nicola went back with the riposte she went back with, which was pretty good, she just ignored it and repeated the same points. And the trouble with this subject is it's very easy to continue the threatening stuff. I think, interestingly enough, strangely, Anna Sarwar has worked out that doing the Ian Davidson routine is actually a mistake, for the very reasons that the DFM very, very adroitly highlighted today. Are you not going to support your local, constituents? Because it's a really foolish thing to say. The truth is, what Labour are going to say is, you can't guarantee the Type 26 contract is going to stay here. So what are you going to do about it? Now, the only thing that she can say she can do about it is to look for diversification. But, as has been pointed out ad nauseum, British shipbuilding has been in decline since the First World War. And I don't know how, I'd love to know how Norway produced so many ships and we don't. That says something like the lack of government strategy.
Alex, 40 shipyards and 100 ships a year.
I know.
Huge.
I know, and that's, they have to, the two things that the Scottish government have to work on here, in my opinion, are that indictment, and more importantly, if that is an indictment, which it is, how would an independent Scotland work on doing something about that? And I hope Ed comes back with some ideas from China on that. But they need to work very hard on that, and then they need to go back to emphasising the whole defence issue and saying, look, we spend at the minute 3.5 billion or whatever it is in contribution to the UK defence bit. We only get half of it back. We'll be spending 2.5 billion. I assume my numbers are correct, but they're there or thereabouts in Scotland in total. It would be very useful, without a doubt, if they could definitely come up with a strategy in regard to Govan, because Govan is going to be the biggest no-vote winner, in my opinion, in Glasgow.
You could be right.
Norway subsidises shipbuilding to an incredible extent. It's massive subsidies that keep it going.
Is it?
Is it?
Yeah.
But they certainly do build a lot of ships. The biggest tug ever built was actually brought it across from Norway to Leith to name it. Don't ask me why, but they named it in Leith with a bottle of champagne and all that stuff.
But then you can have subsidies. It all depends how you look at it. You can make subsidies like a drain, or you can look at a plus. So they do a large subsidy. They have a well-educated, well-skilled workforce. They don't have huge unemployment. It keeps the whole economy going. You have a look at us. Huge subsidies into war machines. Into companies that are loss making. Again, it all depends how you look at it. But going back to the representation of Govan, as a Labour Party member, if I was looking now and I wanted an MP, after yesterday's performance, today's performances, I'd want an Sarwar. He's about so far the only Labour representative talking about that's actually had a look at it in a sensible manner. Last night he did say we shouldn't be looking at this as a constitutional issue. And then you have Ian Davidson. I mean, sorry, but his local party should get it together and boot him out. The man is quite obviously a thug.
He surprises me because I don't think he's stupid. I mean, Alex, you know him personally.
No, he's not stupid. Interestingly enough, I thought Davidson, although he wasn't as smart as Sarwar last night, I thought he actually had backed off this line of saying the government should put a clause into the contract so they can take it away. I think he's actually worked out that was a mistake, and hence he flipped into making a similarly inept statement about joy for Scottish shipbuilding when 800 blokes had just lost their jobs.
Very true. Very true, Alex.
A backtracking
bully.
bully.
Very smart remark, but he backed off the previous nonsense, and I think you'll find that the Labour Party have worked out that that's not a good idea. They should just keep pushing it back on the Scottish government and saying, well, what are you going to do to guarantee these jobs if you become independent? That's it. That's the smart strategy.
Yes, Alex. Right, thanks for your contribution. It's all right, we'll be back. I saw the usual Joanne Lamont performance, reading from the script badly, as Phil points out. Not only that, when Nicola completely outmanoeuvred her with her answers, she ploughed on, didn't take into respond, and didn't respond to what Nicola had said.
Her first answer covered it. We will be meeting with BAE
Yeah.
Systems tomorrow. And she repeated the question 3 times.
That's the trouble. when you
After
read-
that, after she'd been answered.
That's what happens when you read from a script. There's no spontaneity in there, apart from now and again a little sleek it kind of nasty remark comes out. But
Well, look, I'd rather concentrate on Nicola's performance. I'll be first on this one. I thought Nicola Sturgeon's performance was outstanding. I mean, I've seen her perform many times before in the place of Salmond, but I don't think I've seen her up against Joanne. Certainly not at the power that she had today. I mean, there is no doubt about it that in Nicola Sturgeon, the SNP have a very able deputy leader. And she completely outmaneuvered Joanne when she talked about Sarwar. The memo hadn't reached Joanne.
yeah.
Now you've got to bear in mind, Sarwar's
out of the loop.
just a moment, gentlemen. Sarwar is supposed to be her deputy, but Nicola got the dig in. Well, Sarwar's taken one line, and obviously the memo hasn't reached you yet, Joanne. I mean, sorry, it's a hell of a dig.
And Joanne, and it hurt. It was visibly noticeable that she stuck the knife in and Joanne had felt the blow.
Right, and but she clearly avoided answering that.
That must be quite worrying for the Labour Party, actually, because Joanne cannot hide her feelings. If you hit a nerve, you know you've hit a nerve. She could never be a poker player.
Nori, what did you think about Nicola's performance?
The psychology of her performance, and I've seen her do it before, this kind of conciliatory, we will speak to anybody, anywhere, anytime, about anything. But, Bluter, you upset me and I will kick your feet from you. I mean, she went from being nice as nines to really scything Lamont down. Very impressive. I'm with you. I mean, the SNP have nothing to worry about when it comes to who's the next leader. Very competent.
I'll come back to that towards the end as we sum up. Phil, what did you think of Nicola?
Very cool, calm, collected, very much in charge of her brief. I think she would have made an absolutely brilliant advocate, barrister. I mean, she's a trained solicitor. It comes across that whole bit about being reasonable. And when something goes amiss, you nail it. And I think that's exactly what she did. Very conciliatory, a very good politician, because she tries to be inclusive, even against what you would term as her enemy.
What I found quite strange was when the presiding officer asked for things to get speeded up a bit, she sped up.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed that. And that's not an easy trick to pull off. I mean, a pace is set, and when you're speaking publicly, it's difficult to alter that pace. So she must be very confident in her own ability. It's very natural to her.
Yeah. Well, Alex, what did you think of Nicola?
No, as I said at the outset, I thought she was outstanding. I mean, she's a straight 10 as far as I'm concerned. No question about that. I would just say though that if John Lamont could do something other than read from the script, the scripted line of attack was actually a good line of attack, because it's all very well saying I'm meeting BAE tomorrow. To be quite frank, if I want to play devil's advocate, that's a pretty limp defence, because I would just say that's all very well, that Deputy First Minister. You know, you're advocating independence and you're about to have a meeting with British Aerospace. Don't you think if you were going to have a shipbuilding strategy for Scotland, you might have worked out before? It proves you haven't got a strategy. That's the line that she should be taking.
Well, Alex, there you go then. That just proves that Joanne's not up to the job. Phil, what did you think? Phil wants to say a word, Alex, here.
No, I'm with you 100% on that. She's not up to the job, and the best thing that happened in Dunfermline was that lassie got elected and she keeps her job. It's great. But the Labour Party's line of attack, I think, will probably be better executed. They'll put her back in the cupboard and bring somebody else up.
Phil?
No, I totally agree with Alex's, but it's just that whole bit. Sturgeon was excellent. Salmon's most of the time excellent. But what makes them more excellent isn't their ability, it's the inability to perform of the opposition, who are pathetic, which makes the SNP front bench look supremely good.
So basically you agree with Alex then?
Oh yeah.
But I mean, that's kind of, to use a sporting analogy, if you play 6 games against shit and you win all 6 games, when you come up against decent opposition,
Yeah, you're
gonna
in trouble.
Well, no, you're a better team because your confidence is up.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they don't look like they're fazed by anybody.
Or you could.
And that seems to run all the way through the front bench. They all seem to be more confident. They're now starting not to allow people to talk over the top of them. They're getting just that little bit more. I don't know if they spent their summer in some sort of positive thinking campaign or something.
One of these famous political away days.
Well, I noticed a difference in them all. I mean, people who I wasn't all that impressed with have definitely improved since the recess.
Well, look, Alex, what did you think of Ruth's performance?
Well, pretty limp, to be honest. The debate was all going to be really about one thing, and John Lamont did the right line of attack, albeit executed poorly. Ruth just, what did she have to say? She didn't. I can hardly remember what she said, to be frank.
It was about, she continued the Lamont, have you met with BAE on grants and support? And I mean, the question had already been answered.
Well, I think basically what Ruth was trying to get to was where would the jobs be without UK support?
Yeah, but she did it very badly.
I think you could be right there.
I mean, I think, but let's put it this way, that question could have come from the SNP backbenches.
Yes.
Because it was a classic question, can the First Minister or can the Deputy First Minister tell me, will we be supporting British aerospace? Of course we will. It was not an opposition question, it was crap.
Okay, well let's just switch to, we'll leave Phil last, because Phil is always upset to describe a Tory as doing anything good.
Second to third rate on a good day.
Norrie, Ruth.
I was really surprised because, I mean, she was the one that should have said, my government has saved the jobs on the Clyde.
Absolutely.
And she didn't go down that route.
Yeah, well,
it was one of the rare opportunities she had to big up the Tory government in Westminster, and she didn't take it. What was she playing at?
Well, let's bear in mind, 800 jobs going, so it's...
Yeah, but her line is, for the next 10 years, the Clyde has work.
She described it as a bittersweet moment yesterday, that was her line.
Well, see, I wouldn't have gone down that route if I was her at all. I'd have gone down there. There is 10 years of work on the Clyde thanks to a Tory government, a Tory-led government, and the only way that anything can go wrong with that is if you vote yes.
Okay.
No,
Look
hang on a minute.
Hang on, Alex, just a minute.
No,
we need to just... I may have to do techie work afterwards to boost your voice, so try not to talk over. I'll keep you in the loop. Nick, I thought Ruth, I agree with you. Basically, Ruth missed Ruth missed an opportunity today, and who was it? Somebody said she just seemed to get her words muddled up, which is rare for her because she's a professional presenter. Phil, I want Phil's reaction to Ruth now because it'll be short and sweet.
Yeah. As I said before, second to third rate, totally and utterly consistent. There she had a brilliant plum in her hand, threw it away and picked up a shriveled orange. Right?
There you go. Alex, you wanted to come in.
Yeah, I was just going to say, in regard to what Norrie was saying, she has to be very careful that she ascribes any credit for this to her party, because that makes it sound like a political decision which they have to deny till hell freezes over. What they have to say is, this wasn't a political decision, this is the best decision, and it's a bit of a cleft stick, but it was the British Airways commercial decision, but you could lose the business if you become independent. Now that has its own issues, but if she says, you can thank my government for giving you this contract, she's up the yin-yang.
Yep. Willie Rennie, we'll start with Norrie. Performance.
Well, I mean, I had no real problems with Willie. You know, he presents reasonably well. He's just a really wishy-washy individual. You know, he's never going to scare the horses. He took an interesting angle on this idea that...
The Portsmouth paper he brought up.
Well, it was the idea that Sturgeon had suggested that fishery protection vessels would become grey ships, which are warships.
Yeah.
So they would have to be built in the UK. And the spin on it obviously was, why would you expect the British government, if Scotland gets independence, to be any different in their line to the line you took there? Well, quite a good attack, but it wasn't done with enough venom.
I think he stuck
Really?
too much to his script, whatever that was, because what I noticed throughout the debate between Nicola and Joanne was how Rosyth got mentioned at the start, but the Rosyth jobs, which are going, they were completely abandoned. It was all a Clyde. And bear in mind that Willie Rennie's constituency includes Rosyth,
Yeah,
where they're actually building the what.
Nicola upset him. Nicola upset him because he had to come back and quote his CV, where he'd been, who he was, blah
No,
blah blah.
so that's how he missed
You
out.
know, really, I mean, he brought up two relevant points. I mean, why should the British government have a different attitude than the Scottish government hopefully would have after independence to building as much in Scotland as possible? The second point was the point about competition. Now that we're going to have to watch out for, because if I was the Labour Party, I would be saying, right, you're going to go into an open competitive market, a 3% cut in corporation tax.
Hey, wait a minute, that's been abandoned this week in the white paper.
No.
It was abandoned this week in the fiscal white paper.
Oh,
Did you miss that?
No.
Alex
But-
Bell,
No. Well,
Alex Bell,
Yeah,
Alex
so-
Salmon's former policy advisor, wrote in today's Scottish Review that 3% that has been abandoned. Change of policy.
oh well, the point about that was, I mean, this idea of competition, the Labour Party have to be thinking, right, that's wages cuts, that's conditions cuts. That in order to compete with Korea, we have to bring in Korean wages, blah, blah, blah.
Korea's rich, it's not a poor country.
Yeah, but they don't pay people who work with tools well. So, you know, that's all there. I wouldn't be in the least bit surprised if the Labour Party missed it.
Alex, Willie Rennie.
Yeah, I agree with Nori that my initial thought was his line of attack, because it's a classic good line of attack. If you can say, oh, you just said black, how come a fortnight ago you said white? Was a good line of attack, but he didn't execute it very well, and she defended herself superbly, as we've discussed already. So I think he actually had a good line of attack, but he just didn't do a very good job of it.
Right, Phil, what did you think of your friend Willie?
yeah, again, I'll agree. He had two good points and then articulated it completely ineptly. So, yeah, I would give him 10 out of 10 for his usual useless, what is the point of Willie? And also, as well, going back to what Alex said earlier on, I'm sorry, these people make Sturgeon and Salmond better, because somebody who is really good at their job as an opposition could have really got under her skin today, but he didn't. He just doesn't have the news. He shouldn't be there, really.
I think he's basically too nice.
No, he's just inept. And
I mean, the classic one to have done there was the one Sturgeon did to Sawas, where she just kept, at the end of the debate, where she kept hammering him with the question. The Paxman's like, all he had to do was stand there and go, well, do you believe the British government will do what you want to do, yes or no? Do you believe the British government will do what you would have done with fisheries protections, yes or no?
Should we point, just a wee point of order there, or information? Right, liberals, Lib Dem, there's no such thing as a too nice liberal. They're nasty. They're inept. They're insipid. This government
This
is
is just
doing
a
what
vehicle for you to
this
insult
government
people.
is in Westminster is doing exactly what it likes because of these insipid, inept creatures.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Right,
but
what I'm going to
well,
suggest now, in a moment, Alex, what I'm going to suggest now is that we do the scores, And then we come a little general discussion because there's a desire to say other things slightly off what our normal review.
Can I just mention Murdo Fraser?
Uh-huh.
What happened to him? One of the Tories' best performers couldn't get his words out.
Oh, he was the one that stumbled over his words.
Stumbled, stuttered. Not like him, not like him.
And all he had to do was read his speech.
Sorry, Alex, what was that?
Said she gave him a good smack. I thought Phil would have been cheering when he said what he said. How dare a Tory lecture me about this? You know, it was a cracking line that should always be deployed against the Tories.
Oh, I had a lovely big smirk on my face, so don't worry.
Oh, aye. Well, look at Alex. Do you want to give us your scores, please? Let's start with from the top, from the First Minister, Deputy First Minister Nicola Sturgeon.
Nicola, I give 10.
Joanne?
Joanne, I'll give her 6 in terms of what her normal performance is like.
Against the baseline of 0.
The other 2 I give 3.
Anything to the presiding officer?
0.
0, okay.
You weren't happy with her this week, were you?
Well, she couldn't speak, for Christ's sake. It was embarrassing what she said at the start. I mean, for Christ's sake, she's reading off a script. Can't she pronounce the damn thing properly?
Practice in front of a mirror before, yeah.
Quite enough. Right, Phil, what about your scores?
Yeah, I'll have to give Nicola 10 because she was really, really good to watch. With the provision of the simple fact she's only getting a 10 because the others are that bad. Joanne, I'm sorry, I'm a Labour Party member. I'm not going to be as generous there. I'm sorry if she was just not listening. I'll give Joanne a 4. And I'll be kind, and the other 2 can have 1 each. And the presiding officer, again, 0. She was totally useless.
Well, normally we give her a 5 if she's just average, but okay. Norrie?
Joanne, I wasn't impressed with today because she asked the same question and got answered the first time she asked it. She was even told about a previous meeting that John Swinney had with BAE. So, wasted opportunities. He gets 4 questions, wasted. I'm only going to give her 2 today. Ruth, no, she's getting nothing because
She screwed it up, I think.
one of the rare opportunities she had to big up, the union, she missed it. Willie, I'm going to give him 2 because he had two points he could have scored off, better delivered. If he sticks to this diplomatic role, he's quite good at delivery with that, but when he goes on the attack, he's not up.
Well, Nicola didn't actually answer his question, she avoided it, and yet he did. He had in his second question, he should have pointed that out.
Yeah. I'm going to give Nicola 9, which is as high, I think, as I ever score anybody, because there's always room for improvement.
That's very good of you there. All right, I'll go 9.5 for Nicola because I have to agree. I was nearly going to go 10, but you're right. I thought she was superb. Joanne, now on average she gets about 4, I think. I don't think she was bad or good. I'll just give her 4. Willie, 2. I've got no more comments to make about Willie. And Ruth, again, I agree with you, Norrie. I think she slipped up there. It was a chance, a rare chance, to come in with a boost for the Westminster government. So, 1. Presiding officer, I agree. I'll give her 1 point, but I don't think she was bad. She really doesn't need to be changed. Well, Norrie's going to add up the scores.
Sorry?
She's in for an award.
Who? Joanne?
I don't know who it is. I think it's the Herald.
Yeah.
Presiding officer.
The best politician, best parliamentarian, whichever.
Best
And the
debater.
First Minister, Deputy First Minister and her.
Joanne Lamont.
She's
No,
she's
the
nominated
Speaker.
for.
Oh, the speaker. Good God, she couldn't string 2 words together today.
Right, the scores.
She's in for an award. Watch this space.
The scores on the doors. The politicians. Ruth Davidson 4. Willie Rennie 8. Joanne actually got 16, which amazes me.
Still averaging 4.
Which is still 50% less than Nicola got at 38.5, Nicola Sturgeon. The presiding officer got 2.
Man, she didn't have a good day.
I don't think she did either. And I think we all took on your point, Alex, about her inability to pronounce foreign words.
But what that tells you, those scores, is, I'm sorry, but the opposition parties, they really need to up their game on the people that they put up to go into.
Even adding them all up and including the presiding officer, right?
Still don't get as much.
They come to 30.
Yeah.
Yeah, but can I just throw something in here, guys? A couple of you made a comment which I will remonstrate with you about, because it's one of the it's a comment that gets made by too many Scots, in my opinion. You're an Englishman, Phil. I'll let you off.
I'm a Londoner. There's a difference. English is a state of mind.
I know. But you know, Nicola was excellent today. I think you're doing her injustice by saying, well, she was really good, but she might not have been that good if the opposition wasn't shite. The fact is, she pulled out all sorts of plums. You know, the only reading that she did from anywhere was to quote things that were either primary or secondary ammunition. I mean, that ammunition she used against Rennie when she quoted that prick who is our so-called, you know, Secretary of State, who's quoted in the Portsmouth papers as, you know, saying effectively that Scotland got this because of the referendum. It's a bloody disgrace. You know, and she was so well prepared for that. She was fantastic.
Oh, don't need to remonstrate with me. I mean, I gave her a straight 10, and I should imagine if they had excellent opposition, she'd still score on a bad day at least 8.
Right, that's fine. I go along with that then.
Okay, then, Norrie.
I just, you know, I feel that Phil's right. I'm sorry, she's not fighting anything. She can go on the attack because they're not making her defend. It's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to score a goal if there's nobody standing
really
there.
Well, I mean,
Yes.
she'd been attacked harder. I'm certain she'd have stood up to it.
Oh yeah, she's got a lot of bottle, as they would say.
Well, look, gentlemen, we could chat for hours, I dare say, but it's already been a long recording, good 30 minutes or so, and we're not quite sure. I'm not quite sure how technically useful this recording will be. I've got my fingers crossed through the whole show that once I sit down and look at the recording, it'll be broadcastable. But thank you very much for Alex for coming online.
No bother.
And when do we see you in Edinburgh again?
I'll be back next week.
Excellent. Norrie, thank you very much for doing the scores as usual and your contribution, and you, Phil.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, viewers and listeners. Goodbye.